Good morning, St. James. Good morning. We've already had collections, so you don't have to worry about another collection after this. To the shepherd of this flock, Reverend Cleaver, to my other shepherd, Congressman Cleaver, thank you for having me here. To our other masters of the order and other folk, and to this great choir. Let's give the choir a hand. I'm happy to be back in your area. Full disclosure, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan. All right? So I don't want. Now, we good? All right. So there are some men sitting in the front with some crimson blazers on. I don't want anybody to get distracted. They're good men. They're men of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. Of which your men day speaker is also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. So I know you said, what could a man from Mississippi tell us about the revolution? Well, if the truth be known, the revolution actually started in my neck of the woods. And then it came north after that. So we'll have a little gospel according to Bennie Thompson this morning, but most of you already know it. So if I repeat something you've already heard, just understand that it's important. What you saw on January 6th with your very own eyes really happened. And that, my sisters and brothers, was what you call a revolution. But this one was televised. You saw it, you couldn't believe it, that in the greatest democracy known to man, that people could be weaponized against their own government. Some call that false prophets, but others say it's just a matter of being misdirected. So as we look after January 6th, and I spent 2 years of my life making a case for what happened and who caused it, I still am of the opinion that our current commander-in-chief caused it. So, all that being known, I'm happy to be here at St. James. You've been here over 70 years, almost as long as I've been at Asbury United Methodist Church in Bolton, Mississippi. And I want to tell you a little bit about my church because it's instructive for the revolution. When the Ku Klux Klan burned the Head Start down in my little community, it was Asbury United Methodist Church that allowed the Head Start kids to go to school there until the community rebuilt the Head Start Center. But it was also the men of Asbury who guarded the church and the Head Start Center so the Klan couldn't come back and burn it down again. So there's history in who we are. Reverend Cleaver told you about me having held every position in my church. And now I'm just a member. You know what I mean? That's nothing like being a member. That means I don't have to worry about the air conditioning. I don't have to worry about the grass being cut. I don't have to worry about the carpet being shampooed. I can just come and be a member. And so for me, having been chairman of the trustee board, superintendent of the Sunday school, everything you can imagine, I'm just Bennie Thompson, a member. But now let me tell you what that does for a fellow like me. That means that I can help others a lot more because I now have the time. When I used to come to Asbury, the young folk had to sit on the front. Things have changed now. You sit anywhere you want to and all that, which is good. But also there's a tradition at Asbury that you have your favorite pew that you sit in every Sunday. Now, I know you at St. James don't know what I'm talking about. So one Sunday, my whole family sits on that pew. My wife, my daughter, my granddaughter, my grandson. So we were a little late coming, and so my grandson said, Paw, somebody's sitting in our seat. And I said, don't worry about it. I said, but they sitting in our seat. I know you all don't have that issue here at St. James because you coming for a spiritual direction, not for your favorite pew. So this notion of our revolution is a lot of things, but it's also the sum total of your experiences, because everybody here can tell a story about how they have been mistreated because of their sex, their race, their national origin. And so that's part of the revolution. And that's why I like being a United Methodist, because we kind of set the milestone for a lot of other religions, because we are just a little different in so many ways. We acknowledge the fact that Methodism is just about people. And so being here at St. James, I'm excited about the fact that on this one day, the men have bragging rights. Thank you, ladies, for allowing the men of St. James to run things. To be honest, some of them wouldn't have been able to put their shoes on this morning if you hadn't told them where they were. But we talked about the revolution. Gil Scott-Heron said it best, and you had it all week about what's going on. But when you listen to the lyrics and what he says, there's so much of that revolution is now this revolution. If you're like me, I can hardly watch the news because it's depressing, it's demoralizing, and in so many instances, that's not who we are as a country. But that's the revolution that we're faced with right now. My grandson, who's 20 now, and I don't know if you are like grandchildren. If you have them, you're blessed. My daughter is jealous of her own children because she says she couldn't do, when she was that age, what I let them do and their grandmother let them do. I said, look, if I could have had grandchildren first, I'd have had them. So don't. So that part of the revolution is important. But my grandson, can you imagine sitting in the evening watching the news, saying to Thomas, when the President of the United States comes on talking, and said, Thomas, be quiet. One day, you might grow up and be just like him. You understand? That's part of our revolution, because if we don't get our act together, we will be embarrassed at who our leaders are. They marginalized people. They talk about people based on color, based on race, national origin, sexual orientation, everything, because it's what I want to be, that individual. They don't talk about the fact that in this shutdown, we're a few days from people not having food on the table. When I look at our Beatitudes, it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God." We are now shooting people out of boats, and they won't even tell us, why are you killing people in a boat that can't get anywhere? It's a little boat, and you somehow want to convince us that these are drug runners. They don't have enough gas in the boat to get anywhere. And so you do that. But then on top of it, you now send our largest aircraft carrier all the way around the world to go pick on what I call little people. Shame on us. That's part of our revolution that we got to, as a country, do better. So Reverend Cleaver is going to help get me in heaven. I'm talking about the congressman. Now, the reason I say that is I hadn't always been this good, all right? He prays for me on a regular, because I still am real confused about how, as a country and as a people, we can allow this revolution to do what it's doing to its people. Shame on us. The Beatitudes didn't say, "Blessed are those who silence the oppressed while claiming to serve the people." And it did not say, "Blessed are those who turn a blind eye to act ignorant to the real issues of the world." So, I'm troubled, not just as a member of Congress, but I'm troubled as an American, because I now run into people almost on a daily basis who are saying, "I'm almost retired, but I think when I do, I'm going to leave the country and go somewhere else." That's not the revolution that I wanted us to have. So what we have to do as a people and as Christians, we have to look back from whence we've come. We look at Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, John Lewis, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, a lot of people who led in many revolutions, but they didn't lead. And so what we as United Methodists, what we have to deal with this revolution, we have to do something bold. We have to come up with a plan. Barack Obama had it very simple. His plan was vote. And if you do it, in the end, it'll work out. So now, your congressman is under attack right now by evil forces. These are people who do bad things to you, and in the same breath, profess to be Christians. But then I look and I said, in my neck of the woods, there were a group of people who burned houses, burned churches, and their symbol was the cross. But they were called the Ku Klux Klan. And so what we have right now is a modern day Ku Klux Klan, AKA revolution, doing this in real time. This is not 50 years ago, as they say in Mississippi, rat now. So you got to understand that as people, we have to push back. I encourage you to push back, but my Bible says God doesn't like ugly. And obviously what we have to do is come up with that plan. So we're going to have to push back with a mighty force. We can't give up. It's important that if we push back, they'll get it. They went to Texas and said, we're going to redistrict. And then, Pastor, they just found out they've now put some people in districts who you've been talking about. But they're not black, they're brown. So you took the brown folk for granted, and now you've told them you got to go back where you came from. Well, some of them are second, third generation Texans. You know, that's just like telling me to go back as a black boy from Mississippi, go back where I came from. I came from where I am now. I can't go anywhere else. So this whole notion that what they're doing to us is trying to change it with this so-called revolution. Don't be fooled by that revolution. And then when California decided to do the same thing they did in Texas, they said, oh, it ain't fair, we gonna sue. Wait now, you just did it in Texas, we're gonna follow you, and then you said California is wrong? No. Also in my neck of the woods, they say what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And so this whole notion, it's not being evil. If these are the rules, we're gonna play by the same set. You can't have your set and then give me another set. So that's why the revolution is important. So I know you here at St. James understand that. You understand very clearly that here you have a stellar member of Congress. You know, a lot of us look up to him because we wish we could be like him. But you know, we fall off the wagon real quick. And he helped get some of us back. And then you attack the best person we have by trying to take that representation he's offering away from you. You gotta fight. You gotta fight. I encourage you to do it. But look, it's gonna take a lot of effort. You know, a lot of us, family helped build Washington, D.C. We laid it out, all the streets, we did everything. Even helped build the White House. Well, I know you saw on TV what they did to it. Now let me tell you, it's bad. Facts about it, it's real bad. Let me tell you how bad it is. You all know how you have to get permits to do stuff around your house. That's what you call government, right? There's no building permit for tearing down the east wing of the White House. If you've ever been fortunate to go there, that's how you go into the White House, through the side. Well, you go there now, it's gone. And I mean, this is the symbol of our democracy. It's who we are as a people. And then you treat it as it's some kind of a toy. We can do better. There are no as-built plans. There's no nothing. It started off at $100 million. It went to 200. It went to 300. Now it's up to 350. Who knows what the found number will be? But worse than that, it's not who we are as a people. We got to be number one in the world because we have a set of rules and regulations and guides to go by. That means anybody can look at it and tell what it is. But this leader we have, I almost forgot I was in St. James, but it's important that we understand that because people didn't participate in the process, that's what you end up with. And so you gotta stay participating. You can't turn out, because that's the revolution. Now, that revolution pardoned 1,500 people who broke into the Capitol. A majority of them pled guilty that they did. And you pardon them and say, oh, they were just misunderstood. They didn't even make application for a pardon. He just did it and said, well, there's nothing you can do about it. Well, in so many words, they are. He is correct. But you know, what goes around comes around. And that means that we have an election coming up. We have an election coming up next year. It's called midterm. Reverend Cleaver and I haven't been to work officially in 26 days. 26 days. And they say, well, why the Democrats don't come back to work? Wait now. We're not in charge. You know, last count, Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And you want to blame the Democrats. No, we can't go back to work unless the Speaker of the House calls us back. And the Speaker is a Republican. So, men and women, you got to help carry the message forward that everything you see just because it was on TV or on the internet or social media doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. And so, truth always is the best disinfectant for whatever you hear. So what we have to do in this Men's Day worship service is to make sure that we get the truth. When I grew up, they used to say, it must be true because I read it in the newspaper. Well, I bet there ain't 5 people in here today who read the newspaper. You get it online now. And I mean, that's still the news, but things change. But you got to be able to validate what's going on. And a lot of that validation doesn't occur. So if it doesn't sound right, it's probably not right. And so, men, we have a real challenge on our hands. We have to set the example as men. We have to take care of our home. We have to take care of our family. We have to set a high moral standard for everything, because the revolution is depending on us to provide the leadership. Now, I've been married over 50 years. I'm so happy with that. And I'm going to give up the answer to the $64,000 question. How do you stay married for over 50 years as a man? You ready? All right. Look, there are 2 words that you must remember every day of your life, and you will probably get to your 50th. Yes, dear. So now, men, you can go out and brag after you leave the house that you run it and you do all that. But you know. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. Look, my good friend is a blues singer named Bobby Rush. Everybody knows Bobby Rush. Yeah, amen, preacher. But Bobby says, men, when you've been pecked by the right hen, you don't have nothing to worry about, all right? So it's important for us men to make sure that we pick the right mate. And then we set the example for the children and grandchildren for the future. My grandson, who's 20, I told you about, he came to my house when he was 8 years old and never left. He just decided, you know, I'm gonna take my mama's room in your house. And so little Thomas is now 20. And my wife won't tell him to go home. But you know, that's part of men running the family and making it right. I told little Thomas, long as you go to school, get you a job, I'm fine with it. But now there are some rules in my house. Men, you can't come in there anytime you get ready. You can't invite every Tom, Dick, and Harry to come by the house. Now watch this. If you got a friend, you're gonna have to talk to me about your friend, and I hope that friend's family talk to her about you. Because now, when I was courting grandmama, you know, it was four of us in the living room talking. And so, men, some things we have to do for the good of the order, and that's the revolution. So, faith without works is dead. And so is your breakfast if you don't get up and help, man. But seriously, it's those little things, the acts of love, the acts of service, the acts of leadership that adds up to the revolution we need. So as we leave this men's worship service, remember that the revolution will not be televised, but it will be lived every day, right here, right now, by each one of us. Let's keep walking by faith. Let's keep fighting the good fight. And let's keep building a legacy that will last right here at St. James. Thank you so much, and keep the faith.